preacher's kid.
I would always say that phrase, you got some big shoes to fill. I didn't come into this with the intent of trying to fill shoes. It was too big for me. And so I knew that I could not be Richard Henson, and you could never duplicate what he did. So I just simply sought God for what it was that he would have me to do, and how would he direct me to lead people who had only heard one voice for 50 years. My dad never had an assistant pastor for the 50 years he pastored. So coming behind him to share and minister to people that he raised, I just kind of sought the Lord God, what in the world am I going to do? Because I ain't never going to out preach me in this pulpit here. It ain't never going to happen. My dad pastored the church for 50 years. And in those 50 years, God blessed him to reach a tremendous status in ministry. He accomplished many great things, including the purchasing of the property that we're now on, which is just about 14 acres of land. So an independent pastor, wasn't part of any organization, just out here preaching and doing what he was doing. So it was a tremendous thing to come behind somebody who had achieved so much, especially in his own city, and to be so revered and respected and appreciated all over the world. Ment Studios, short for Monument. Ment Studios became the tool that allows a monument to have an ongoing opportunity for flowing. GGP Entertainment, however, which is Giving God Praise Entertainment, and we are doing music, film, and those types of things. Now that belongs to myself and Lady Grace, Amazing Grace, yes. And so, it becomes a tool that helps us to financially develop and pour money in the vision and do what God gave us to do. Lord, you keep on lifting me higher and higher. I utilize Ment Studios as a tool for the church because I believe that the church needs another financial tool. I believe that the church needs more than what people give on Sundays and on Tuesdays or whenever they give, because people have a tendency not to give when they're in a strain. We're in a recession right now. We've come out of a pandemic now. We're not out of it quite yet. And so people didn't come to church and people didn't give. And so there were many things that affected the giving of people. But if the church has a resource that continuously funnels finances into vision, vision will never die.
Well, being a preacher's kid, it created a roadmap for me, for sure. I grew up under heavy manners. I say because my dad was a strict holiness pastor, and I said that was character building. And so with character building and having a mother all my life who was a first lady, it was just easy. It really was. I understood ministry. And in understanding ministry, I was able to adapt easily to my husband and helping him with vision and moving forward. So being a preacher's kid, it wasn't all bad at all. It has ups and downs, there's no question, because, you go to church Monday through Sunday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and come back and be there all until midnight and still got to get straight A's. Yeah, preacher's kid. That's what we had to do. Bishop Charles Little. Okay. Absolutely, because women are nurturers by just nature. And that's what we do now. So we have this, we can stay up all night to 5 in the morning, which we do often, and work vision. But you have to have someone who can do strategic planning. And then with strategic planning, you have to have someone that way you can execute it. So I think I bring that to the table with my husband because he's gifted. He's just vision all day long. And so being a preacher's kid, you have a gift of discernment. So with that gift of discernment, you're like, okay, what are you thinking now? Let me help you. So yeah, it's all good. And I can see myself putting it all, well, I'm doing it now. So putting the pieces, helping him put the puzzle together and connect the dots. So it's all good.
I felt that it was the most spectacular thing that God had allowed me to do in my whole life. I feel very happy about it and excited, and I'm glad that God has chose this season for me to give him the glory. I started out in music actually when I was 3 years old. I started singing at 3 years old. I started playing the instrument, which is the piano, at 9 years old. And just ever since then, I've been doing it my whole life. Got involved in Monument of Faith in July of 2018. After much prayer and seeking the Lord with my wife, we moved from our former ministry, and the Lord led us here to 2750, and my life has never been the same. Well, the title of my project now is called Worship Goals, and I know that in the future I'm going to have many more projects to come, but this one in particular is really reaches my heart, because the thing that I want to try to do is I want to try to, with my music and with my ministry, bridge the gap between generations. It's a huge gap sometimes between the older generation and the younger generation, and I'm a part of both. I've lived long enough to know how the old school do it, and I'm around to see the new school, but there has to be a bridge between the two. And my goal is to make sure that they understand, that the generations coming understand the God that we serve. They need to know. And so that I feel like that's my calling, one of my callings, to bridge.
Started at Monument of Faith Church back in 77, 78. A great man that I still look up to, Dr. Richard Daniel Hinton. Yeah, I get emotional just talking about him every time. He was a visionary. He spearheaded so many different avenues here in the Chicagoland area. But he started a broadcast, audio broadcast like 76, 77. Then he moved to video broadcasting with a station here locally was called TV 38 at the time. I think they later on turned to TLN. But for like 20 plus years, he broadcast every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Faithfully. And at that time, I was like 17 years old. And I had no idea anything about television. You go, you turn it on, you turn it off. That was the gist of my education on television. Never knew about the behind the scene, what it took to actually put a production together. So he actually hired a company to come in to do the broadcast. And I was just amazed. I was just hooked from that point on. Television. And then from there, oh my goodness, the list went on. God has blessed me to work so many different places, from the Oprah Winfrey Show, for Super Bowls, for multiple NBA finals, lyric opera, World Cup. The list goes on and on and on. Almost 40 years of television experience. But I was blessed to be nominated 5 times for Emmys. You know, I'm the Susan Lucci of the Emmys. Didn't win yet, but won 5 times. Was nominated 5 times. And so about 3 or 4 years ago, a friend of mine wanted to start his own program. And so he asked me to come and help. So one of the places we did some of the programs were here at Monument of Faith. We just kind of rented out. Pastor Hinton Mark Hinton allowed us to rent out the place to actually do some of the studio work. And then he said, "Dave, give me a hand. I got a vision." So we sat and we talked about his vision, about some virtual reality things, some concerts, some plays, some recordings and stuff like that, audio as well as video recording, starting his own studio. He said, "Can you give me a hand?" And I'm going like, look how everything went full circle. from the late 70s to the early 20s, 2020, whatever they call it here now, that I'm back here at Monument of Faith. I get emotional thinking about that, working with Mark, working with his father, although she is now working with the son and has a bigger vision than his father did. So what we just did, what we just finished, is a full listening party. Our talent, which is signed by Ment Entertainment, they came in, and in this room that we're working in right now, it was transformed into a virtual reality studio where we can do any kind of background. We can create backgrounds, we can have backgrounds already stored, we can actually do studio config, we can actually do side by side, we can do just anything. If you want a news station, if you want a church station, if you want a concert, if you want to walk on Mount Everest, we can do that for you right here. Ment Studios has the ability to do anything. We can actually record your live albums. We can actually, if you want to do a play, if you want to do a concert, Ment Studios is where you need to be right now. We can look at shows like, movies like The Matrix. A room like this is where the movie was developed. A green screen room. You know, you look at Lord of the Rings, same thing. A room like this, maybe a little bigger, but this is where it was done. And with the technology that we have now, it's open for all of us.
Well, he been talking about it since I was a kid, so I was more excited for him and seeing how his business is going to flourish for him and where it's going to go. I actually catered the listening party with the food, and it was excellent. And from what I saw, it was excellent from the first day. And I just look forward to where things is going to go. Since I was 13. Okay. So promoting for different artists, doing road managing, regular managing, stage management. So I've been in it working with quite a few artists. Well, my first event was at the UIC Pavilion working with Byron Cage and Micah Stempley and a few others. I work with a lot of artists now and do sound engineering for a couple of churches. So, well, as far as being the management of the artists and the business, the entertainment company, I look forward to pursuing long-term careers for the artists to see where that they will go with their career. It's important for them to listen to the management team, let the management team do the work, and they just sing. They do what they supposed to do and stay in their lane. Stella Awards, BT Awards, so many accomplished great things coming out of Ment Studios.
Tonight was absolutely phenomenal at the listening party, the first listening party for Ment Studios. From the equipment to the sound quality to the performance to the crowd participation, I can honestly say this was par excellence. Pastor Mark Hinton has put together an excellent studio of excellent quality, and I am so happy to be a part of the team. I've been in the business for 30 years. I was failing a probability and statistics exam at Boston University, and I vowed once I got out of that class, I would get into communications, and I've been there ever since. I left Boston University and began producing at WYCC for the city colleges. My grandfather had a studio, the late Reverend Dr. H.B. Brady, and it was at 83rd and Halsted, and we produced things from music videos for the multi-platinum group Crucial Conflict to a jazz show called Live from Warehouse, Emmy nominated for PBS, to a comedy show for BET. And then after that, I've been to the Olympics. I've shot at the Oscars when Halle Berry and Denzel Washington won their Oscar. God has blessed me in this business, and I look to bring those producing talents to Ment Studios, not only in front of the camera, but also helping young people develop their skills. I've been blessed to teach what I do at Chicago State and a couple other places, and it is near and dear to my heart to give back because somebody took the time to give me the instruction that I needed to get my career started. And it's always good to give back because, you know, they say the greatest libraries are in the cemetery. People who've done great things, but they never passed it back. And I'm grateful for my mom, Reverend Dr. Prince Celebrated Lee, who always imparted into me, don't put people in friendship chairs who have not gained that sort of notoriety. And I can honestly say that Pastor Mark Hinton is my friend, a fellow PK. His father and my granddad were great friends, and now we're here to take media by storm. So again, as Bishop T.D. Jakes would say, get ready, get ready, get ready.
There were two men who prayed. One man prayed and said, God, the earth is yours and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Send a millionaire to my house. And Lord, I'll thank you. And you know what? God did just that. Another man prayed and said, God, the earth is yours, the fullness of the world that they that dwell therein. He said, make me a millionaire. And God just did just that. 2 years later, the man to whom the millionaire gave $1 million to got on his knees and prayed again because he ain't had no more money. But the one to whom God made a millionaire never had to ask again. I believe that God puts us in positions, not that we become needful, but that we stand in a position to meet needs, you know, and so that's where we are.